Good morning. Happy Monday. I hope that you all are somewhere warm and cozy this morning because I think, if I'm not mistaken, every place is really cold. I know it here in Tennessee. We actually have snow on the ground and slippery roads and single digit temperatures. So I'm so happy that you're here. I hope that you're warm. You've got a warm drink and you're ready to kind of kick start the week with us in a positive mindset. So happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Mindset Monday, where independent patient advocates like us come together to start the week with positivity and inspiration. I'm Nicole Broadhurst, and we are awaiting my co-host, Kayla Thompson-Riviere. And we have a powerful quote to get us kicked off this week. So let's dive in and see what we can talk about. So last week, we reflected on the idea that there are always two choices, two paths to take. One is easy, and its only reward is that it's easy. And that was a quote from someone unknown. But this quote really reminded us that the easy path, while it's comfortable, doesn't necessarily lead to growth or fulfillment, right? So it's often in the more challenging path where we stretch ourselves and that we find real transformation and impact. So by choosing to lean into those challenges, we often become more resilient and better equipped to serve our patients, our clients, their families, and each other. So, as we transition into this week's quote, we're going to be talking about Carl Jung. We're going to carry forward this momentum of challenging ourselves. Okay, so we're going to move into this week's quote by Carl Jung. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is a really powerful statement, right? And it shifts our focus from external circumstances inward into ourselves and doing some self-awareness work this week, right? So it's a reminder that this self-awareness and authenticity are at the heart of our meaningful work, right? Advocacy work is really meaningful, and we do it from our heart. So especially when we're guiding clients and families through the crazy healthcare system. So let's see. I want to like kind of talk about that, like the the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And I think this is a lifetime work, right? Like we don't always know who we are. So I love to use my nephew as an example. When my nephew was very, very young, I don't know, probably 3 or 4, he started to, express interest in being a fireman. In fact, I know it was before he was 5 because on his 5th birthday, my sister, had the local fire department bring out a fire engine, and, she bought him or my parents, I can't remember, somebody got him a full garb, like the big, suit, the jacket with his name on the back and the overalls, so that he had his gear, his fireman gear. Um, the reason I'm telling you this story is that my nephew is now 25 and he's a fireman. And so he knew when he was very young what he wanted to be, and it was in alignment with who he is. He is absolutely a first responder at heart. However, I always also like to remind people this is the exception, not the rule, right? Most of us do not know, are not in tune with ourselves at 4, 5, 6, even 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. I often say at 18, I don't even remember what I wanted to be, right? I didn't so I certainly wasn't in line with my authentic self. And this is an ongoing practice, right? To try and look inward, do some reflection, ask myself regularly, there's Kayla. I love it. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna bring you on because I There we go.
Hi.
Hello. Happy Monday.
Happy
So I got
Monday.
us into the quote here and really kind of started talking about inward assessment and how my nephew is one of those few people who actually knew who he was and kind of carried that through his life. Like he was 5, he wanted to be a firefighter. He's 25, he's a firefighter and a first
That's
responder,
awesome.
and that this is not the typical path, right? Most of us have to do more internal work to try and figure out who are we? Who am I? I'm 53 and I still wake up and say, who am I? And is this in alignment with who I am? Um, in fact, I am getting ready to put my word of the year is faith, and I'm getting ready to prepare a wall where I am putting a bunch of litmus test questions and answers and experience around the word faith because for this very reason, because this is who I am inside. And I want to make sure that what I'm doing and saying and behaving and acting on the outside is in alignment with that. Love to hear your initial thoughts on this quote from Carl Jung.
Yeah, I
Jung,
I love that
anyways.
you're gonna be doing that. You have to keep us posted in the
I
circle
will.
because I bet that'll
Yes.
be kind of motivational, like for other people too.
Yeah.
But I love this quote, and I feel like it kind of ties into what we were talking about last week. I think, although truth be told, we've been doing Mindset Monday for like probably 75 or 80 weeks now. So
Right.
at this point, I don't know if it was last week or a month ago or a year ago.
I know. Right. At some point in the not so distant past. How about that?
Yeah. But I know we were talking about the concept of hard. It was last week
Yes,
actually.
it was
Because we were
last week.
talking about, yeah, the two paths you
Mhm.
can take.
Yep.
And we were talking about this concept of hard and how when we have a tendency as a culture to perceive that, like, if something is hard, to steer away from it, and how I've found that the more hard things I do, first of all, when you do hard things, they become easy. So what is
Mhm.
hard is constantly changing, which is wonderful. But the more I've leaned into these hard things, the more that I have found that it's what life is about. And I feel like this quote kind of goes along with that and really, really resonates that. Because as I'm leaning into all of these hard things and, trying to figure out how to start a business and move it forward, especially in an industry that's new in a market that doesn't exist in my area with a baby and everything else, the more I do it and figure it out, the more it just my soul is like at ease but also on fire in the best way because I feel like I'm really truly finding my path and the purpose of my existence in this world. And I just can't articulate the weight of that and how tremendously beneficial and impactful that is just for me personally, aside from the good that my work does, like how much it feeds my soul to be on this path and not backing away from things just because they're hard, because they're the ones that are worth it.
Right. Right. I love this. I love this. And I think it's fuzzy socks, layering clothes. I just put a question in the chat, Kayla, asking is everybody staying warm this morning because it's cold everywhere. So anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, we've got lots of people. Fuzzy socks and layering clothes are very popular this morning. Here too, just so you know. Um, yes, I love this. When and I think this is kind of goes along with everything that we've been talking about. There's lots of trial and error in life, right? And this is kind of like one of the things that I think is really important is I was just reading a book. I picked up Atomic Habits again.
Oh,
I
love
don't
it.
think you can ever read this too many times.
Probably not.
Um, right. And the thing that stuck with me this time through was around action versus motion. And
Mm.
motion is not the same as taking action. And what you were just talking about is the more I take action, the more feedback I get as to, is this in alignment? Does this work for me? Is this positive? And is it something I want to do again?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these are all indicators, and you may be wondering why I mentioned that, but these are all indicators of finding alignment with who we truly are on the inside. If we don't try things different, if we don't do things differently to get different outcomes, then we may never feel that, what you just described, Kayla, right? That moment of, oh my gosh, this is incredibly hard and it is incredibly rewarding, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's so much of why I'm here. And it really does take like stepping out in what I'm going to call faith, whatever you want to call it. Faith is my word for the year. So, stepping out into faith and saying, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this hard thing and I'm going to see what happens and take that learning and see if it's, in alignment with who I am and who I
Yeah.
really am on the inside. I don't know. I just feel like for me, this has been a lifelong journey and continues to be a lifelong journey. I would love to hear other people's experience around this. Were you more like my nephew and you kind of knew what you wanted to do and be, and you've never had misalignment? I will be
Probably not.
I know. Full transparency though, I will say over the course of my lifetime, I think I struggle to stay in alignment with who I truly am.
Mm.
Like that is something that I'm always evaluating, and I have to pay close attention to it. It's easy for me to lose sight of that internal compass. And
Yeah.
I have
Well,
to be really careful.
that is why we're here today, because the first step of this, the for those you may be familiar, in Mindset Monday, Nicole and I sat down and we put together 6 pillars of mindset that we speak on. And today's is the concept of intuition versus ego. And I think especially in our US culture, there's not a lot of emphasis on intuition and tapping into your intuition and listening to it and even giving it credit. So I think that's, what you're describing is so common, because to have any of this, to step out into faith, to follow your path, and etc., it all starts from being in touch with your truest self at your core, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
I really resonate with, discussing it as the soul. That language may
Yeah.
not work for everybody, but for whatever that is for you, you can't become who you truly are if you aren't in connection with who that is first.
Right.
And it's a learned skill in this society,
Mhm.
not in all societies, but in ours it is.
Yeah, I agree.
So
100%.
we have to start there. And we've talked about it before, but some of the more practical things is, getting back to radically taking care of your
Mm,
body, so that that mind body connection can exist and thrive, and you can start to
yeah.
get to that soul, that core, and really tap into that inner energy and where it's resonating.
Oh, I love this. I love this. I was just looking at one of my notes, and one of them, it just talks about being unapologetically yourself. And I just had to stop. Like, that's not even the whole sentence in my note, but that's like the beginning part. And I literally had to stop because I was like, okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Unapologetically myself. Whoa, right? I mean, just think about all of the things that, well, I'm going to share what I have carried forward, right? Shh, your voice is too loud. people hear you. And this is just the immediate thing that comes to mind because I still struggle with this. People still say this to me. And I'm loud. I'm a loud person. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so when I read that, I was like, yeah, be unapologetically myself. And that means I'm loud. I'm sorry. Like,
You just said, I'm
why?
sorry.
Right. I know. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's so ingrained that to not be unapologetic. Like, this is work, y'all. I mean, and just think about all of the things that we carry forward through our lives that, when I show up and I am loud and I am not apologetic for it, it really radiates authenticity, right? Like, and sincerity and all of the things that I want, that I am on the inside. But it requires work to not show up, like to not apologize. Like, I just did it. I just said, yeah, I'm loud, so I'm sorry. No, why am I sorry that I'm loud? I am just loud. That is just, 50 years of trying to not be loud. I'm pretty sure that I'm just wired that way. Pretty sure.
Unapologetically be yourself. Yeah. And so to me, when I hear that, the unapologetically part is more the outward facing of how you interact with other people. But equally, the other side of that coin to me is, and without judgment. Because the unapologetically is, I'm relatively comfortable with. It's the judgment piece where a lot of work comes in for me. The inner critic in my mind, and hopefully, other people relate to this as well. She loud.
Right.
So while I can brave face and tell other people not to be bothered by it, I'll still carry it in with me as kind of my tendency.
Yeah.
So two sides of the same coin there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's the application of that look like? So what do I need to challenge myself? Like, for example, I'm really trying to think about this being loud because this is on my mind right now because we're talking about this. So, how do I embrace that? Like, what's something I can do? Can like in a conversation, do I say, is this someplace? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, like, what does that look
sounds
like?
To me that it's, focusing on, specifically using the being loud as an example.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that, this is a characteristic of you that has always been painted in a negative light, probably from childhood. And I always go back to that because, like, they say that the people, your parents and caregivers around you become your inner voice. So right. I imagine that that's something you heard a lot as a child, and it was painted in a negative light. And so my off the cuff suggestion to you would be to really take some intentional time to sit down and, okay, this is the story I'm telling myself, that this is a problem, or it's bad, or a nuisance, or whatever words come up for you. Right. Just let them come up and write them down, and then really challenge yourself to see how you can turn that around and make the opposite of that statement as true, if not truer. So
I like that.
If it is, being loud is a nuisance, if that's the thing that comes to your mind, and writing down all of the things around that to support, previous reasons why that belief has been validated. Maybe it was what you heard in school or from your parents, etc. And then finding a way to turn that around. You're loud because you have an important message and a voice that can carry it. And look what you've done just for the community
I
of
like
advocates, this circle of support that you've built for all of us who are trying to, make it in this industry and therefore go on to help even more people. With your loud voice being amplified across all the advocates and all of their clients, you've been able to help bring up thousands of people.
Wow.
Well, thank God you're so loud.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, so everybody just like stop. I want to say rewind, but I don't know. Reverse the video if you're watching the video and listen to what Kayla just said, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do this. And I think that this is something that any of us can do with any of those things that are kind of bringing us preventing us, barriers, right? These, whatever these barriers are to showing up unapologetically ourselves, so that we can radiate these amazing things that we're supposed to radiate. We were designed to radiate, right? Like, and because Kayla, you just broke that down into a great little process. Like, sit down, write down these things, and then, look at them and apply them and they've been beneficial in my life. So I'm going to challenge you, if you're listening to this video, if you're watching us this morning and you have some of this barrier in your own mind, take those steps. I would love to hear how that works out for you. I'm going to do it. I will do it this week, and I will post it in the circle so that underneath the video after it's posted, so that we have some conversation around it. I love this. I think this is really important.
I just really believe that every personality trait that, maybe by default, especially when you look at that like parent-child dynamic, there's attributes in children that are often in our society looked at as a negative thing. For one that I deal with a lot with my son is defiance. He's sometimes he's 4.5, and sometimes I can bring up something that I know he wants to do, but because I said it, now he doesn't want to do it. Like, he'll be defiant just for defiance sake. And I have to really work with myself to like not get triggered and like, beat him into not beat him literally, but like, break his spirit essentially.
Yes.
Because one thing we know is that, quote, defiant children become leaders, become change makers. And, the loud kids get up the megaphone and change things that really, so like everything that we were told as children was a problem, there's another side to that coin. And it's really just figuring out how to flip it over and embrace that other side. Because showing up unapologetically, that's almost the end result. But it has to start with radical self-acceptance and self-love.
Oh my gosh. And this goes right back into, this is crazy, you guys. This goes right back into, like I said, atomic habits. Atomic habits is little tiny changes that add up over time to make big changes in our lives. And everything starts with what we believe about ourselves. Right. And so this is a great exercise in really digging in inwardly to figure out, one of the things that the James Cleary, I think it's James Cleary is the author, talks about is that behavior that is incongruent with your self-image won't last. So again, if we try to change things without looking inside, not going to work. I love this. I love
that. And it's interesting that you say that, because the thing that was on my mind to share was, old dogs can learn new tricks. There's things we can change about ourselves. However, I do believe that there is a certain core nature to us that is the hard wiring. Like for me, one of the things I have a tendency with is all or nothing. And while I do try to branch that out and curtail that, I also have to accept that I have that tendency instead of actively trying to fight it on things. And I, again, have figured out how to not judge myself for it or not put myself in situations where it relies on not having that mentality, but instead look at how I can use it for good, use my powers for good instead of evil.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Because there's a certain,
yeah.
you can kind of tailor and trim some things, but you can't pull out the whole root.
That's right. That's right. And this is part of, in this, honestly, I think in this quote, that is the privilege of who you are, Kayla, right? That you are able to see both sides, right? All or nothing. I'm able to see both sides. And when you accept that, it's a privilege because now you have the ability to navigate, regardless of which way things go, anywhere in the middle, right? So it, again, embracing who we truly are really is not just a privilege for ourselves, but it's a privilege for everyone around us, right? The world, right? It's a gift. I'm pretty sure at some point in the not so distant future, one of our quotes talked about it being the best gift that we could give anyone is the gift of ourselves, something like that. There was,
I can't think of what it was.
I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that. And it's because it's true, right? When we're able to show up and be authentically ourselves and bring the gifts, because I agree. We're designed with certain things to bring into the world and to amplify or radiate, or because we're all different and we all have different. I just think that if we could all do this, it would be such a better place, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Just
I mean, and not like for the individual and the collective. So that's another thing that I lean into.
Yes.
If ever I'm having a time where making a change or doing the hard thing, putting myself out there, if something on this path of authenticity and being who I truly am is challenging, I like to remind myself that I hold this belief that I owe it not just to myself and finding that privilege of a lifetime, but also to all of the people who I am meant to impact with my work. I owe it to them to step into the discomfort and do the hard thing because I haven't met them yet, but I know that they need me and they're waiting on me, and I am working that path to get there. So it's not even just about me. Like, obviously, like, I'm tickled that my life just keeps up leveling with all the hard work that I'm doing, but it's to serve the greater good and the bigger purpose.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you know what that else that makes me think of? Go just like watch the highlights or watch It's a Wonderful Life again. And like all of oh my God, I watched it on Christmas. I had it on Christmas while I was baking a cake. And it's the first time I watched it since I had kids. Oh, I was not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But truly, like, we have such an impact on everyone around us. And that's what we're here for. So if you find it hard to do it for you, then try that on, see how that fits to do it for everyone else too.
I love it. All right. Well, let's wind this down with a couple of clear actions. I love what you shared a little bit earlier for me. Like, take some time and really get clear on what are the limiting beliefs. What are the things that you consistently tell yourself that are a barrier to you showing up as authentically you? I'm going to do this. We're going to have a conversation string inside the circle where we talk about this. Get clear about it and start trying to rewrite those beliefs, right? In the positive aspect and how they move you forward. The second thing is really prioritize the self-care, guys. Like, if you can take 5 or 10 minutes, and it does not have to be an hour, it does not have to be a long time, literally 5 or 10 minutes every single day to to start your day in alignment with who you are inside, it will help. I can't tell you I just pulled out all of my planners. I have now 3 full quarters of planners where I have been consistent about sitting down each morning and giving myself 15 minutes to get myself together and in alignment. I cannot tell you the difference.
It's that
of that.
habit stacking.
Yes.
I might
it
have to
is
go re-listen to the book now.
amazing. Yeah, I did. And I think that this is going to become one of those books that I'm commit to reading every year. You know, like maybe it's my January book of the year, just
Yeah.
to regroup, because it is real. Anyway,
Oh,
so
yeah, that book changed my life, literally. So if you haven't read the book yet,
yeah,
go do that.
yes,
Also,
yeah.
it's
And if you
it's on
just joined,
Spotify and Audible.
yeah, it is. And it's in yes, Audible. I think and guys, listen, if you listen through Libby or through what's the other library app. Anyway, I borrowed it from the library and listened to it through Libby, which is my library's app. And if you just joined us, because I saw somebody just popped in, I don't know. Yeah, Sandy. Yeah, it's the book. The book is
Atomic
Atomic
Habits.
Habits by James Cleary. Amazing book. Okay, so those are some things that we can do to get in alignment with our authentic self. And I'm going to encourage everyone to commit to taking 5 minutes. I just broke it down, 5 minutes. 5 minutes every day to before you get started, to make sure you're in alignment with who you are on the inside and what you're doing on the outside. And remember, we'll be here again next Monday to talk about, oh, Sandy has the book. She's going to reread it. I love it. Next week, we'll be back. We are so grateful for this community of advocates. We'll be back next week to talk about I don't know. I think it's self-awareness. Wait, I'm all out of alignment.
I don't know. That's a Friday thing for me.
Yeah. So we'll show up again next week, Monday, same time. And we'll be here to talk about positivity and motivation. Go have a great week. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.